In 1948, the United States launched the Marshall Plan, injecting what would be $135 billion today into rebuilding Europe. That investment changed history, reshaping economies, solidifying alliances, and positioning Western nations as dominant forces. But here's a question no one asks: what if a similar plan had been launched for Africa? Welcome back to My Planet Updates. As we explore today's video, we'd love your support. Please consider subscribing to our channel, like and share the video. Your support helps us grow and bring you more updates. Today, we may finally get to see that answer play out. BRICS nations are planning to invest over $800 billion into Africa. But this isn't just about aid or loans. It's about something much bigger, a reordering of global economic power. For decades, Africa has been caught in a cycle of economic struggle, despite having 60% of the world's arable land and one of the fastest growing populations. The question is, why hasn't Africa risen as an economic powerhouse? To understand that, we need to rewind to the 1980s, a time when decisions made in Washington, London, and Brussels shaped Africa's fate in ways. Flashback, the 1980s economic trap. It was the height of the Cold War. African nations, many newly independent, were struggling with economic crises. Inflation was soaring, debt was mounting, and growth had stalled. Institutions like the IMF and World Bank stepped in with promises of relief. But relief came at a steep price. Structural adjustment programs, SAPs, became the conditions for financial assistance. These policies forced African governments to devalue their currencies, remove subsidies on essential goods, privatize state enterprises, and open their markets to foreign competition. Pause for a moment and imagine this happening in your own country. Overnight, local industries collapsed as cheap foreign imports flooded the market. Families could no longer afford essential goods. Governments lost control of key resources. The result? Africa was locked into an economic structure designed to keep it dependent. The continent remained a raw materials supplier while manufacturing and value-added industries thrived elsewhere. Fast forward to today, and the scars of these policies still shape Africa's economy. But now, something different is happening. BRICS' radically different approach. Enter BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, offering an alternative path. Unlike the IMF and World Bank, BRICS isn't pushing austerity. Instead, it's funding Africa's infrastructure, industries, and connectivity. Take the Tanzania Standard Gauge Railway, a $1.6 billion project connecting Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, the DRC, and Ethiopia. But here's the key difference: this isn't just a loan, it's a strategic investment. This railway isn't just about transport, it's about breaking Africa's dependence on Western-controlled supply chains. It's about opening up regional trade and strengthening economic independence. And this is just one example. BRICS-backed projects include energy production, manufacturing zones, digital infrastructure, and industrial parks, all designed to shift Africa from being a supplier of raw materials to a producer of finished goods. But let's pause and ask, when was the last time a Western financial institution funded a project that connected multiple African countries? The bigger picture, a new global financial order. Some critics say BRICS is just trying to replace the US dollar in international trade. But that's like saying social media was invented just to replace phone calls. The reality is much bigger. BRICS is challenging the Western-dominated financial system by creating new banks, alternative trade networks, and multipolar economic alliances. And here's why Africa is central to this shift. By 2050, Africa's consumer market will reach 2.4 billion people. The number of millionaires in Africa is set to grow by 47% in the next decade. The continent holds vast untapped reserves of minerals, oil, and agricultural land. For the first time, BRICS sees Africa not just as a resource hub, but as a future manufacturing and economic powerhouse. The next industrial revolution, Africa's path to economic independence. Now, let's break this down. How can Africa turn this shift into lasting economic growth? Here are 3 key principles. Target industries with high import dependency. If a country imports 80% of its basic goods, that's not a problem, it's an opportunity for local production. Look at Dangote's oil refinery in Nigeria. It's the largest single-train refinery in the world. But was it welcomed by importers? No. They fought it at every step, because disruption threatens the status quo, and disruption equals opportunity. Build regional value chains. BRICS understands that Africa's economic strength isn't in 54 separate markets, it's in one unified market of over a billion people. Which products are currently imported by multiple African countries that could be produced locally? That's where the next wave of industrialization will happen. Leverage Africa's raw materials for local production. Africa holds 60% of the world's arable land, vast mineral resources, and an enormous workforce. So why does the continent still export raw materials only to import finished goods at higher prices? The next economic boom will come from value-added production, processing raw materials into final products within Africa. This means jobs, wealth creation, and economic independence. A critical turning point, Africa's choice. Not everyone sees BRICS as the answer. Critics argue that China dominates BRICS, making up nearly 70% of the bloc's economy. Others warn that BRICS could create a new form of economic dependency. But here's what these critics don't understand: Africa isn't choosing between the West and BRICS. Africa is learning to leverage both. The real power isn't in choosing sides, it's in using global alliances to build something independent. That's the real opportunity. The future is in Africa's hands. The coming years will be pivotal in Africa's economic future. But real economic transformations aren't driven by governments alone, they are driven by visionary individuals, entrepreneurs, and investors who recognize opportunities and seize them. And right now, the opportunities in Africa are bigger than ever. So, what do you think? Is BRICS the future of Africa's economy, or is it just another global power play? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for tuning into my Planet Updates. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay informed on the latest global news, politics, and everything in between, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any of our updates as they drop. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. See you in the next update.